Joe Biden. Joseph Biden. First of all, to all of the Democrats, especially the progressives, I would like to apologize on the behalf of the so-called black community for screwing everything up. We were this close to nominating Bernie Sanders, somebody who, right now we're in coronavirus and healthcare is a major concern. And the one candidate running on a healthcare platform for everybody, which would have benefited this coronavirus time, would have been Bernie Sanders. But our elders down in South Carolina messed up the whole plan. So I like to apologize to my progressives on the behalf of my elders, Anyway, so I was going through the news and I saw Joe Biden release an agenda for the black community. Interesting. The Democratic nominee presidential candidate Joseph Biden is beholden to the so-called black vote. Listen, there is no beating Trump. There is no path to the White House without our support, and that is period. Why? We are the base of the Democratic Party. Oftentimes throughout history, our vote has been overlooked, taken for granted, and simply outcasted or even pandered to. But I see that times have changed. We are way more politically involved and more economically powerful than before. And for the first time, maybe since the 70s, we have a so-called black agenda that has been, that we've been communicating. Matter of fact, I remember in the beginning of the Democratic primary, reparations was being discussed. I was like, what planet am I living on? Were they for real talking about reparations? Joe, his campaign was absolutely dead in the water. But as he was approaching South Carolina, and then with Claiborne and all of the our brothers and sisters down there, we absolutely resurrected his campaign. Although I voted for Bernie, his campaign was on life support. You see, as so-called black people, culturally, we set the tone for the country. Now, politically, we're setting the tone as the country. Our economic impact is super duper strong, and now we're becoming a political force. All right, now, matter of fact, we're becoming so much of a force that there's a huge groundswell saying right now that's demanding Joe Biden to have a so-called black woman as a VP. That would be amazing. So they're talking about Val Demings. They're talking about Kamala Harris. But I personally think they're going to choose Stacey Abrams, just me personally, just because she had the whole Michelle Obama and Oprah behind her. And listen, if we want to beat Trump, we're going to need that enthusiasm. Now, I would like to say that the first time I seen a national politician bring forth an agenda to the so-called black community was actual Michael Bloomberg. He had the Greenwood Initiative. You see, he even announced the Greenwood Initiative in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Black Wall Street was. I don't know if you guys know what Black Wall Street is, man. I'll do a video on that. But Black Wall Street is where we had it popping. We had banks, we had schools, we had economic power, we had all of this. But then the government and the KKK and them, they came in there and bombed all of that. So you ask me, why can't so-called black people get it together? We have, but there has been terrorism against our community. Anyway, serious or not, for the first time, I've seen a national politician lay out a direct plan for Black America. So let me read you Michael Bloomberg, his agenda, which was the Greenwood Initiative. Okay, quote: "Many people in America suffer discrimination, but the African American experience is unique." True. "Where slavery ended, systematic bias quickly took its place, and Black Americans were crowded into neighborhoods, denied credit, starved of public investment, and subjugated to financial predators, and to a large extent still are." right? I mean, we were actually forced in these projects where many of us had the money and the know-how to live in suburbs and have a better quality of life. Going on. The enduring legacy of this unconscionable history is reflected in the fact that despite progress in closing education and employment gaps, the typical black household remains almost 10 times poorer than the typical so-called white household. Now, let's talk about Joe Biden. So as you see, I think Joe Biden took a lot of that swag and implemented in his agenda for black people. All right, so he released 6 main tenets, okay? Let me go over the 6 tenets and then I'll break down what's in them. Okay, first one, economic development. No, I'll do it one at a time. In his economic development, these are the highlights. $3 billion to assist small businesses. Okay, $70 billion for HBCUs. I went to Howard University. And student loan forgiveness. It sounds like Bernie Sanders swag. The second bullet, number 2, housing investment. Home buyers, will get $15,000 in federal down payment assistance. And supposedly they will protect tenants and end redlining, which is a problem. Number 3 is health care. He promises to further Obamacare. If you're talking health care, you might as well, be on some Bernie Sanders Medicare for all with, full with AOC if you really want. Anyway, next one up, education. First of all, I believe that we should be educating ourselves. I think we're fools if we expect our oppressor to educate us. Anyway, so they say in education, they want to modernize schools. They want to double mental health professions in each school and increase teachers' pay. Next up, education beyond high school. Interesting. Okay, let's see what they say. Supposedly $50 billion investment in workforce training. I have my thoughts I'll share later. Another one, clean energy. $1.7 trillion over the next 10 years in a green energy that will create 10 million good paying jobs. But wait a minute. How are we going to be able to do any of this without having a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House of Representatives? It actually doesn't seem possible. But maybe we get it. Maybe we don't. Maybe the Democrats get it. I'll say that. Next one, I think it's the last one, or maybe 2 more. Infrastructure. $1 trillion over the next 10 years to rebuild our roads, bridges, railways, freight, and ports. They also want to support James Clyburn, who changed the whole trajectory of Joe Biden, his 10-20-30 formula. And in that formula, it says that they will allocate 10% of funding to counties where 20% or more of the population has been living below the poverty line for the last 30 years. 2 more. The next, I guess that'll be number 5, voting rights. They want to restore Voting Rights Act and end gerrymandering. Sounds idealistic. Anyway. And finally, criminal justice reform. Eliminate the death penalty, eliminate mandatory minimums, and eliminate the federal crack and powder cocaine disparity. Is that still a thing? I mean, I guess it is. I like this one. They want to decriminalize and expunge all cannabis convictions or cannabis use convictions. If you pitching, you ain't getting no help. They want to end incarceration for drug use. About time. In cash bail and private prisons. How you just gonna end private? That's a hard fight, which is a fight worth fighting. And also invest $1 billion per year in juvenile justice reform. And finally, domestic violence. They want to build on the landmark Violence Against Women Act. Okay, wow. Okay. While studying this plan, I see a bunch of words. I don't really see anything of substance. It sounds rich to the ear, but very poor in action. I am proud of the progress we have made, but I'm disappointed in the lack of specific measures for ADOS. Whether you believe in ADOS or not, the actual American descendant of slaves, not all of us are descendant of slaves, but you get what I'm saying. it's not specific enough. Let me tell you why. When I was going through this, let me tell you what I found. I found lots of nondescript words such as low income. Not all of our people are low income. Minority. What the hell is minority? Like, if women are minority, gays are minority, Mexicans minority, Asians, if you add up all the minority, it's a majority. Other words I seen, nondescript words, people of color. Nah, if you have an agenda for black people, how you talking about people of colors? Why are you talking about Indians and Native Americans? We talking about so-called black people. I seen words like community. I seen words like all Americans, all people, and every student. No, we need something specific. Not once. Look, how you gonna have an agenda for so-called black people and we don't see the word black men, not one time. I didn't see the word black woman, not one time. I didn't see black children, not one time. And so the thing about this is an agenda for so-called black people. It is to rid the problems that we have in our community, right? How do you do this without even mentioning one time the word slavery? Okay? Slavery. That is the greatest American injustice that still affects us to this day. I didn't even see the words hip hop. I didn't even see the black church. I mean, these are institutions that if you talking to us, these are things that we need. I don't know. How in the hell can you mention black Americans' problems without even mentioning Jim Crow? You see, all of this is like fluff. It's nothing real. How you make a specific agenda for so-called black people, but meanwhile, you're including Mexicans and immigrants and Native Americans and even poor whites because they're low income, right? I mean, first of all, not all black people are low income. What about the middle class? Like, especially those are the ones that's specifically going to be voting for you. Oh my God, man. Second, I already talked about the minority. I guess it's a start, but it's not enough for me. I need something way more specific if you want my vote. Bloomberg's economic suggestions are far more effective. There was more emphasis on home buyer programs, loans, and educations. But what about reparations? I believe our ancestors deserve retribution. I guess it's up to us as a community to come up with our agenda and press this agenda as a voting block on politicians, not just national, but local politicians as well. As far as healthcare, I need you to go full with Bernie Sanders and AOC in them because just small little tinkerings of Obamacare is just not enough. His educational policies are aspirational and ideal rather than pinpoint, precision, and practical. Just a bunch of pandering. Still understand why there's not enough emphasis on trade schools. Why do we spend so much, like, I was a teacher, right? And they say here in America, after a 5th grade education, basically you can function in this society up to a 5th grade education. Everything over there is specialized. So if that's the case, why are we spending so much money in middle school and high school? Like, it's a law, you gotta go to high school. But meanwhile, there's no trades. Like, for an agenda for so-called black people, I need trades. We need HVAC, heating and air conditioning, carpentry, masonry, barbering, computer repair, coding. These are the things that will empower young men and give them skills that are self-sustaining, that will create income, productive members of society, and create their own businesses that will empower them. Okay, it will decrease public assistance and crime rates because when these brothers get the sisters pregnant, now they have a way to provide to the house. Oh my God. Speaking of criminal justice, we need to give all former prisoners their right to vote. That has to be something Democrats have to push on because after you serve your debt to society, you should be able to vote. And then finally, women, they say we're going to end violence, end domestic violence. How in the hell can you promise that? How can you promise you're going to end domestic violence? You bullshitted me. You're not even making sense. You don't even have that power. So if this is an agenda for so-called black people, right? And you're talking about women, that means you're talking to our sisters, our mothers, our aunties. They need a whole lot of stuff, not just fluffy wish talk. You got this pandering, guys. We got to see through this. All in all, I appreciate the look, but if you want my vote, I need meat I can eat. Don't bullshit me with nice platitudes and different words. Anyway, this is a very important discussion, and this isn't the end. If you have something to say, hit me up on Twitter or in the comment box, and I'll give you a phone number, and we will take discussions, because this is not gonna end. I'm Ali Salaam. This is the Affairs of Men. Oh, and your comments and your video, if you leave the videos, please make sure they're under 3 minutes so we can get to them quick. All right, that's what it is. Ali Salaam, the Affairs of Men. Peace.